It's been 4 weeks since our very first Just Beavin mock draft 1.0 edition for the NFL draft, which is now this month. We are in April. Free agency has come and gone. We've been away from free agency for a few weeks now. So the dust has settled, and we have another mock draft coming here for you guys, 2.0, and we've implemented a few trades that you will see here. Andy, JP with you, the crew for all your mock draft needs here in this draft season. Hopefully we'll get one more in. It is we're recording here on the 3rd, so it's exactly 3 weeks, JP, until the first round, day one of the draft in Green Bay, unfortunately. But it is good. Draft season is officially, I mean, it's been upon us for a while, but it really feels like we're hitting the home stretch here with 3 weeks to go.
Yeah, no, it's times are definitely exciting now. You can see some of the draft buzz starting to pick up heavily. I think, yeah, you sent me that post earlier though, or that article.
Yeah.
They had Trevion Henderson mocked at 10 to the Bears, and it's like we just need the draft to be here now so we can stop mocking and coming up with these ridiculous scenarios. But that's also the fun in it. So
Most definitely. We know we needed to do at least one more. So this we had to get two in because we did one pre-free agency. It was recorded the Friday before, so it was the March 7th, and then with free agency officially opening up on March 10th, we were able to get that out over that weekend. A lot different now though. April 3rd, we're going to get it out this weekend. Draft in a few weeks from now, and as I've mentioned, we've made a few trades, and as you see here with JP sharing our mock draft board, we've switched over to PFF. We've moved on to bigger and brighter things for our mock draft board here. But JP, no movement in the top five, no movement in the top 10 right now. We had gone back and forth, but with free agency, we're going to talk about it when these teams make picks. There wasn't really any movement that needed to be done. So, and that's why the board is sitting the way it is right now.
yeah, I fully agree with that. I think, yeah, like you mentioned, I think the way that teams went about free agency, especially the Titans, who we have here on the clock at number one, I think the Giants were most prized to move up to number one, and the Titans sitting there doing nothing, I think, really solidified that there won't be much movement, at least in the top three. I'd honestly say in the top six, I don't think there will be much movement at all.
There you have it. Yeah, I think we didn't even discuss this off here, but if you want to do this, and this is the way we can break down this first round. Last time you did odds, I did evens. I was thinking I do odds this time, and you do evens. If you are good for that.
Works for
In
me.
terms of the first round picks. Awesome. Let's rock it. Titans up first, and last time we had them going with Abdul Carter. We had them staying and going edge. That has since changed. JP's already got it readied up. Cam Ward will be the number one pick in our latest mock draft edition. Here on Just Beavin, they didn't do anything, they being the Titans, JP, to address the quarterback position in free agency. And there's just been so much more buzz around Cam Ward going number one. It seems like across all mock drafts and all draft boards now, that is the pick. So it just feels like why would we zig when others are zagging? We might as well just go with what the field is saying, especially with the top pick of the draft.
Yeah, and you got to feel for Titans fans here. I don't think Cam Ward's a winner. I don't think Cam Ward is going to be a premier quarterback in the NFL. But that's just kind of the way that the draft is going to go. I mean, you need a quarterback. You cannot roll Will Levis out there for the third season if you want to keep your job if you're Callahan. And I think Ward certainly has the highest floor of these guys, so I will say that much.
Yeah, not a huge. I will then. I'll go off you there. Not a huge fan of this class in general. I think Ward is the best guy, but that's not saying a whole lot. So we'll keep it pretty straightforward there. Cam Ward at one. Last time we had him going at two to the Browns, which is your first pick here in the first round, JP. We don't think they're going quarterback at all now with all that they've brought in. Not saying they've brought in, a Bevy. We know Kenny Pickett's there, and they're heavily, heavily rumored in on landing Kirk Cousins as well. It appears that they're just going to veteran piece this together here in 2025 with them still dealing with a Deshaun Watson injury. And they don't appear to be very high on any of the quarterbacks in this class, especially in this spot if Cam Ward is already off the board. I'm assuming you're not going quarterback. So who will be the first non-quarterback taken in this draft?
First non-quarterback taken in this draft, all because of the Myles Garrett deal, will be Travis Hunter to the
Okay.
Cleveland Browns. I think they need help on both sides of the ball. And coincidentally, Travis Hunter plays both sides of the ball. Wow, look at that! But no, in all realism here, they need help at corner, opposite of Denzel Ward, badly. They need help in the secondary. And then I think it'll be nice for them to be able to bring, a great playmaker in on like third downs, third and intermediate, stuff like that. Just have a play every now and then for him. And you need tickets to be sold, and I think Travis
Right.
Hunter will really do that. And I think the Browns are kind of in a position where they need to sell tickets outside of Myles Garrett. So
Dude, you're making this hard on me here. I was gonna go Hunter at 3 to the Giants. It makes things a little more difficult, but and I agree though for the Browns. It makes all the sense in the world. Like you said, you need to get butts in seats, and they're the type of team that needs a star like that. I feel like they did a similar approach. Granted, Travis Hunter, while winning the same award as this guy, he's going to be a much better pro for those type of reasons, just because he's a better player. But in terms of the name and the face and the figure bringing in, you feel like they did that when they drafted Johnny Manziel over 10 years ago, right? That was a big ploy, and they took him with a much later pick. He didn't go at number 2. But that's the kind of spot that they've been put in here. I like that pick. Like I said, it does mess with my pick in the Giants going with Hunter, but I'm probably just going to flip flop. I know that this might not be the most important need to fill for the Giants at 3. But when looking at the rest of the board, I think they just need to go BPA. I'll have them taking Abdul Carter. I know edge rusher probably isn't the first thing that they need in this spot, but I don't necessarily know if I love any other guy going at 3. And Abdul Carter's talent alone is a top 3 talent in the draft. So I feel like that's justifiable there. And I know we didn't have them making a trade in this spot, but maybe if the board shakes out Ward and Hunter, you see if you know, yeah, the phone is picked up by the Giants front office and they make some calls to see who would want to come up and get a guy like Carter at 3. I don't know though. They're not taking a quarterback, JP. That's been made pretty clear with bringing in Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. They're out on the quarterback class this year. And I don't know, where would you have gone at 3 if not for Carter?
I think I would have probably gone with Mason Graham and or Will Campbell. I think Mason
Okay.
Graham probably would have been my pick. If you take Burns, Dexter Lawrence, who's probably the best interior lineman in football, add Mason Graham, and hopefully Kayvon Thibodeau excels a little bit more. I don't think he will, though. I think his
Yeah.
ceiling's pretty.
I
That's the
think so. My
conversation.
thought with this too is that they would trade Thibodeau because he's
Yeah,
come
that
out
would
and
make
he
sense.
hasn't been super thrilled in
No.
New York. So you feel like that could be, I don't know what you necessarily get for the guy, but he would basically be coming in for Thibodeau. It was tough. I just couldn't pull myself to take Graham at 3. I know that's like that sounds broken because it's like, well, if it's a position of need, it then sits at, do you want to go position of need or best player available in a spot like that? Because you know if you take a guy like Graham at 3, it's going to be considered a reach to some extent. I think he's a good talent. I don't necessarily know if that's the spot I'd have him going, but like I said, it all depends on how the board shapes out. So yes, I do want to preface that as well with Carter. There would be a trade of Kayvon Thibodeau in that spot if he were to go at 3, but I believe he's a top 3 talent, and that's why I slot him in there. So
No, makes perfect sense. My whole thing was, I mean, just imagine that line with Burns, Lawrence, Graham,
yeah,
and Thibodeau. I mean, that I'm not even kidding. I think that's the best line in football if they go there. But
that'd
yeah,
be a
no,
good
them
front.
trading Shane Bowen in Tennessee was big on having the edges. They had a bunch of guys, vets who were coming in and out with Bud Dupree. They paid Harold Landry a lot of money. Then Bowen and Vrabel both got canned together, and so now Bowen's in New York and he likes his edges. So.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see though. I would be super curious if it does go Ward Hunter, what the Giants do at 3. It would definitely spin things a bit because, you know, that's Hunter would be their guy, no doubt, if he makes it through the first 2 picks. In the last draft, with the Patriots at 4, I do believe it was Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU. With this being JP's pick, JP, do we see a repeat? Do we get our first repeat pick? Do we have Campbell staying with the Patriots, or could they go on the line as well on the defensive side?
Yeah, no, they're sticking with Will Campbell here. They need offensive line help desperately. He could play any of the 5 positions on the line. It's just where they're going to feel the most comfortable with him being. I honestly think center could be his best position. So I'd love to see if they were to try that, but I doubt it with Garrett Bradbury over there. But yeah, no, I think they go offensive line unless Abdul Carter was on the board.
I love that you bring up Bradbury because this is a conversation, not necessarily draft related, but we talked about this with free agency, I believe, when we talked about the Bears and Drew Dahlman, and we talked about Coleman Shelton with the grades, and he looked bad on film, but his grades actually weren't that bad. For Bradbury is a guy who I feel like it's a name throughout the league that's pretty well recognized. When you think Bradbury, you're like, all right, solid center. I didn't realize how bad his grades were. I never realized that. So that's a flip. That's a flip because you if you were to just ask me service value, hey, Coleman Shelton or Garrett Bradbury, I'm taking Garrett Bradbury just because
every
it's the
time.
name, right? Every time. And you probably would think the same way. But no, the grades, and Coleman Shelton looks like a Pro Bowler compared to him, which is just wild. So yes, you throwing out that idea of center made me think, yeah, they got Bradbury there, but I don't know how they're going to feel about him for more than just a season or so, or maybe even into this first season. Jags at 5. I get to make the pick that this was a tough one at the last draft as well. This was this Tet, I believe we had that
This
you
was
had going
this
to the
was Ted.
Jags.
I had Ted
So
going to the Jags.
so Mason Graham is going to go here, and I believe that was the guy. It was either Graham or Tet at 5 to Jacksonville. We're going to go with Graham here. Graham is a top 5 talent. Looking back at it, I probably should have taken him at 3 to the Giants, but that's okay. We're going to let the board shake out the way it does. He shouldn't slide outside New England or Jacksonville at 5. Like I said, and I talked about in the last mock draft video, with him being a Michigan guy, as a unfortunate Michigan State football fan, I've watched him for a couple of years now do his thing. Dude's just dominant. He worked up front in a very good defensive line for a couple of seasons, and this is a need Jacksonville didn't really address in free agency. As if you watched our free agency video, the only real move they made, why am I blanking? De'Ame Brown. They went the only receiver. Not saying De'Ame Brown's going to prevent them from getting a Ted McMillan or another guy, but this is a different. This is mock draft 2.0. We don't want to repeat every pick. We will repeat some, like JP did with Will Campbell, because some of the fits still make perfect sense after free agency. But you want to mix it up here. I like Graham and I like the fit in Jacksonville. This pick, JP, will be different. Yet again, first 5 or 6 will be, because literally the day we did the mock draft, we took Shador at 6 to the Raiders. He is no longer even an option for them. Literally, I think not even 3 hours after we got off the call, Geno Smith was dealt from Seattle to reunite with Pete Carroll. And today, as we're recording this, Geno Smith signed a 2-year, $75 million extension with the Raiders. So they're not going quarterback. There are some good playmakers available. And some are saying, with us being as Bears fans, we're worried that Ashton Genty might not make it to 10 now because of the Raiders at 6. Do you believe this is where the Boise State product and the Heisman runner-up goes?
For the sake of the mock draft, I'm gonna take Ginty. I think it's the safe pick. In reality, if the board felt like this, if Tet was here, I think them giving that extension to Geno kind of locks in the quarterback play there, obviously, and they need help outside of Jacoby Myers. And so I think that Tet McMillan would be the play here. But for the sake of the mock draft, I'm going to go with Ginty. I think it makes the most sense. Just they need a running back. Raheem Mostert being signed does not absolutely derail them needing a running back. But yeah, I mean, he's an all-world talent. No high is too high for him in this draft, and they're getting a top 3, top 4, top 5 player in the class. So
Yeah, he's awesome to watch. I mean, as someone who had watched plenty of Boise State games, having, stake in Genty, what he's going to do yards wise, all that on the ground. And there's a reason why, despite playing in a smaller program, he was as highly recognized as he is. It makes all the sense in the world. Fantastic player. This would really stink for us as Bears fans. But at the same time, like you said, for the sake of the draft, it would make a whole lot of sense. Going at 7 with the Jets. And for me right here, this is another one where I think 7 through 9, it'll be, this is going to take a turn because we really just don't know. We feel like we didn't have a lot of, we talked about this in our free agency video as well, especially with 8 and 9 with the Panthers and Saints. Not a lot of questions got answered. We didn't walk out of free agency with those two teams saying, yes, all right, I feel a lot better with what they're going to do in the top 10. For the Jets, we had them going Mason Graham in the last draft because he happened to fall there. That's where the board shook out. He is gone in this situation. I know the Jets took a tackle last year, Olufushanu, to work with at the time. Aaron Rodgers, obviously now Jets not having him under center. A new era of Jets football with Aaron Glenn as their head coach. I'm going to stick in the trenches, but go on the offensive side of the ball. This guy is known as a project on the offensive line at tackle, but I feel like he could really work out with the Jets. I'm going to have them take Armand Membu here at 7. We had him in the last draft. Where did we have him go? We had him
Elite
in
San Fran at 11.
San Fran at 11. So not too much of a jump. He's going up 4 spots into the top 10. And this is one of those, JP, big position in need. I guess you can make the argument for receiver or defensive line, depending on how you feel on the interior. I just don't know, other than Graham, if any other interior defensive lineman is worthy of going that high. And Membu could be, we've talked so much about him. He could be truly incredible at the NFL level. It might be worth the swing for a team like New York at 7.
Yeah, undeniably. It is a project piece, but them committing to Justin Fields proves that they're committed to Glenn. I feel that that's kind of what that tells us, that they're not just going to throw in the towel on Glenn. So Glenn will have time to pick project guys because he'll get to see it through. And I completely agree with what you said. Membu is worth the investment, worth the time that it's going to take, if it even takes time. That's we're all banking that he really is a project. He could come out swinging day one. But if he is a project, it's he's one that's going to be worth the wait, and Glenn has the time for it.
Yeah, we moved to 8. This was a pick, JP, that I had no pleasure in taking. Our last go around when we did this, I had Jalen Walker going uh to the Panthers, and I actually was reading through some mocks today, and that's exactly where other people had him going as well. So I know I'm not too far off the board, but at the same time, I truly feel like this is a what in the world is going to happen with this Carolina team in the first round. Really, just do not know. Do you have any type of idea, direction, or thought as to what could happen here, Nate?
Yeah, I definitely think they're touching the defensive side of the ball here. Canales just came out, talked about how committed they are to Xavier Legette and all the upside they see in him. They went wide receiver in the first round last year. I don't think they'll repeat it again. They still have a couple young pieces over there that I think they're excited about. Jalen Coker being a UDFA and kind of breaking out, picking up that number 2 spot. And you still have old Adam Thielen, who's still had good separation grades, so you can't knock that. So I don't. I really think they're comfortable where they're at and at the wide receiver position. So I think they're going defense side of the ball here. I've been all over Mike Green in this spot in a lot of my mocks, but as of late, with all the character issues and stuff that have come out about Mike Green, I think he'll evidently slip to the teens, much like a Laramie Tunsil situation. And so I'm going to give the Panthers Will Johnson here at
All
number
right.
8.
Dude, I mean, he's a stud corner. We mentioned this in the last draft. If Travis Hunter declared a position, we'd be able to say yes, he is the best corner, but the best true corner in this class is Will Johnson, and we'll have 2 Wolverines here in the top 10. Him along with J.C. Horn. I believe we talked about the contract extension he got. And while the numbers necessarily don't support the money that he's getting paid, it was a move that had to be made to some extent. You had to keep him around. So those two playing opposite of each other will be, the secondary and the cornerback slots for the Panthers for the next 5 years or so, or at least so they're hoping, as long as everyone can stay healthy and play the brand of ball that they're hoping that they can play moving forward. The Saints at 9. I hate everything about this pick. I hate this just as much. And the guy that I'm going to take is someone who we took in the late 20s in our first draft. That's how much of a jump up this guy is going to have here. Um, but I'm going outside the box with New Orleans. And, I think if Genty was here, we said this in the last draft. If Genty was here, you say maybe Genty, but no. And then again, well, how would Genty make sense? Kamara and company back there. I just don't know if that's worth the investment. You look at the defensive line, you say maybe there, and that's where I'm like really torn right now. I could go defensive line. I could do something like that. But the thing is, I look at the offensive tackles for the Saints. I look at Ryan Ramczyk, who's on his way out, and I look at Trevor Penning, who was a first round pick a handful of years ago, and he hasn't looked good either. Because those two guys are still going to be there, we talk about projects. I'm going to talk about a guy coming off injury here in Ohio State Buckeye and Josh Simmons going at 9. We had him in the late first round last go around. This guy, JP, his stock, he could go as high as this. I think he goes low. Literally, it's anything in between. His injury alone. And if he didn't get hurt, probably the best talent in this class and the offensive tackle spot. He pound for pound is a great player when he's healthy. And I think this, so we talk about, okay, the Jets maybe want to take a swing. Honestly, if I hadn't taken Membu to the Jets, I would have taken Membu here, but Membu's gone. And I think for Simmons, he still is able to recover from any, parts of that really gruesome injury that he had in the Oregon game this past year. It really allows him to fully recover. There's no pressure on him coming back for week 1. And it allows New Orleans to say, okay, we have a guy in our back pocket at tackle who could be something really special, but we don't need something from him right away.
Yeah, I have Simmons as my number 2 tackle in this class, and for good reason. I mean, we've every time we talk about him, we get excited about how great of a player he is pre-injury, and I think he'll come back healthy. ACLs aren't what they used to be anymore. You
Mm-mm.
can tear an ACL and come back. It's almost like Tommy John in baseball now. The first one means absolutely nothing. It happens to everyone now. It's part of the game. The ACLs are at that point now. You can have an ACL tear and come back from it and be right where you left off. Saints would be getting a damn good one in Josh Simmons, and I'm actually a little bummed out you went with Simmons here because I was looking to nab him at 10, so it puts me in a little tough spot here. But the Saints would be getting a damn good one with Josh Simmons at 9.
Yeah, it's a good point as well. With our Bears at 10, Genty is gone. The top 3 tackles in this class are gone. JP, do we want to potentially talk trade here for the Bears? And I'm just saying this because this is our team. Who would want to come up to 10, and who would the Bears potentially look as a trade partner? Or do you already have a guy in mind, regardless, that you'd want Chicago to stick with at 10?
Well, I have a guy, not that I think, or not that I want us to take, but what I think we would end up taking. If we were going to go trade here, I think Dallas would jump up from 12, seeing how the board's shaking out, and they would nab the guy that I'm thinking of. So I'm just going to roll with the Bears here and let the board shake out. And
Okay.
I'm gonna give the Bears Omarion Hampton
Our
out of
guy
UNC.
Omarion. Dude, we talked
I
about this guy a
really, I
ton in the
really
last
see
year.
it. Yeah, I love him, and I know 10 is a bit rich, and we could, like I just mentioned, we could trade down potentially. I don't even know if Dallas is actually going to swing on running back here at 12. It's just what we've been mocking. It's what I've been mocking a lot. It makes a lot of sense. They only signed Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders in free agency. That does not tell me anything that they're committed to the running back position. But it's also Jerry Jones, and this could be his way of, hey, maybe Javonte Williams got something left in him, and we can get that out of him. So we don't need to touch the position. Maybe they go with Burden or Egbuka here at 12. I have no idea. I would hope in this spot the Bears would go Mike Green. That would be
Yeah.
my dream is we take Mike Green here. But I'd be perfectly okay taking Omarion Hampton here. I love Hampton just as much as I like Genty. We're getting a top 2 back in this class who, if you put him in the class with Bijan, him and Genty in the class with Bijan, you have Genty, Bijan, and Hampton. It's like last year's receiver class with Rome, Neighbors, and Marv. It's like 1A, 1B, and 1C here. I love Hampton, and I'd be over the moon about this pick.
You're firing me up right now. Just talk about him. No, big Hampton guy. We had him at 12 to the Cowboys in our last draft. And there's a reason why when this first started talking about prospects a couple of months ago, you and I and every, all of our Bears friends that we have had the conversation of, man, Hampton from North Carolina, if we can somehow get him with one of our seconds, dude. No, that conversation's been long gone for months now.
Oh God.
This dude won't even make it out. I don't, you know what? I said he won't even get out of the top 15. He's a top
I don't
15
think so.
pick. I really think we've gone from, man, could he get to 39 to he's not getting out of the top 15, which is crazy. And I think his numbers, but his tape too, he had a really good combine. And I know I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. It's not only the combine that means something to me. I'm more tape than anything, but it's everything valued into one. It's how they do the mental tests, how they, physically work out at the combine, how their pro day is, their tape from the season, and how they interview with the GMs, which is something we don't know. We don't know how guys interview those. The results of those don't get put out to the public. You see videos maybe after the fact in the docu series on YouTube when guys get drafted. They'll show those interviews then, but until then, we don't know. And well, if they show those on the docu series, that means they interviewed okay. So you take that all into account as well. We've heard nothing good things about Hampton, so I'm more than fine with him at 10 here. The Bears are getting a guy to run along with DeAndre Swift and Ben Johnson's offense. And oh man, let's hope the good times are going to roll here in Chicago very, very soon. We have our first trade here at 11. I'll be making the pick. The Broncos and 49ers making a swap. JP and I believe that for what the 49ers need, there's enough depth in the class at both of their primary spots to where they can drop down and pick up some extra draft capital. And we feel too that with how the board is shaking out, especially with now in the top 10 with some skill guys going off the board, that the Broncos, who we had taking a receiver in the last class, spoiler, they're taking receiver here as well. We feel that they're not going to want to risk hoping that a guy falls to them. We're hoping that, player X or player Y is in our lap at 21. No, they're going to make the move. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to go up to 11, and they're going to take Tech McMillan from Arizona. In our opinion, the best receiver in the class. Mock I saw the other day had him at 18. He's getting down below teens into the 20s. I don't get it, JP, and we've said this before. We don't get it. Look at the tape. Look at the numbers. The guy's an absolute baller. He is my favorite receiver in the class, and I don't even think it's close with the number 2 guy. I mean, we like Luther Burden a lot, but just the way the guy's built, he's a freak, and he's just completely different than everyone else in this class. He's a true jump ball, go up and get it type of guy, and that's exactly who Bo Nix needs to throw the football to entering his second season.
Yeah, I know that quote came out about Ted McMillan where he said that, he doesn't like watching film, he just doesn't like watching football. And I know people take that stuff out of context, and it's like you don't have to be. I mean, do bankers go home and watch people count money all day? No. I mean, you don't have to be obsessed with what you're doing in life. If you care about putting in the work for your own product, that's what matters. Who cares if you go home and you watch the Browns and Colts play on Thursday night football? Nobody cares about that. And I think people are investing too much into that. This is the best player in the draft. I've had Tet
Yeah,
at number one on my board all through the college season. I'm keeping him there now. I'm putting every Tet egg in the Tet basket. This guy's an absolute stud. Then you pair him with Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is known to force the ball to number one receivers. I think there was a streak there where Cortland Sutton had like almost 40 targets in 3 games at one point. Just unprecedented numbers. You get Tet out there, unreal what he'll do in the fantasy realm for sure. And it'll translate to real life. Tet McMillan's the real deal. 6'5" guy who ran in the mid 4.4s. I mean, I don't know who runs routes like Justin Jefferson. I don't know what
right.
else you want. I don't know what people are so scared about. Ted McMillan's a beast, and the Broncos would be get. This is a steal at 11.
I
Getting
agree.
Ted McMillan.
No, I completely agree. This is the guy we're going to talk about, when we are reviewing the Beaver Fest draft in a month and a half, which is crazy. How is that only a month and a half away
Yeah,
in the
seriously.
first round? So no, this is a guy, and whoever gets him in our draft is going to be super pumped as well. No, this is a great spot for him here at 11 in a trade up to the Broncos. JP, a different spot here. Cowboys will be taking someone different in our 2.0 mock draft because running back position, the top two guys are gone. Are they going to go receiver as well?
Yes, I think this is when they do go receiver. I think they pull the trigger here on Matthew Golden from Texas.
My guy, that's
Is where
exactly who I was thinking about as well.
That's where I think they go. I personally have Matthew Golden at my wide receiver 4 right now. I'm torn between him and Egbuka at 3 and 4. I just think the Texas background, being there, I know Jerry Jones eats that crap up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I would go Burden here if I was drafting. I have Burden as my wide receiver too. But I really think there's no right or wrong order between Golden, Egbuka, and Burden. You can have them wherever you please, and it works. Golden's a stud though, and he put that on showcase at the combine, running the sub four
Yeah,
three. Teams are going to eat that up. You pair him next to CeeDee Lamb, and they've needed a number two desperately. You do Lamb, Golden, and Tolbert out there, and that's not a horrible 1, 2, 3. Quite frankly, a lot of different skill sets there, which I think is the benefit that you'd be getting with that. Golden's a stud though, and I think this is a fitting pick.
yeah, back-to-back pass catchers. We had Golden going near the 20s in our first draft, and yeah, the Texas fit. That's literally what I was thinking too. I'm like a Longhorn, staying home, sticking around there. That makes all the sense in the world as I'm looking at our mock draft. We had him going 21 to Pittsburgh. Obviously, the Steelers getting DK. They probably won't go receiver in our draft here, but hey, we'll have that second part of our episode tuned in right here. So you're not going to want to go anywhere for that. Another trade up, back-to-back picks that I'll be making via a trade up. We have the Rams getting in front of the Colts, who took Tyler Warren in our last mock. Or I should say, yeah, they got in front of the Colts. They trade back with the Dolphins. At 13, we had the Dolphins taking Bo Johnson in the first draft. Johnson's long gone. He went 8th overall. And I kind of spoiled the pick already because, we know the fact that they being the Colts, will take Warren again in this spot if he's just sitting there at 14. That's why the Rams, Sean McVay, they want someone for Matthew Stafford, and that is going to be Warren here. He is going to be the pick for the Rams, going one slot higher than he did in our first draft. And JP with Puka Nacua, and now they add Devontae Adams in free agency, losing Cooper Kupp. Those two with Warren for Stafford would be a lot of fun out in LA.
Yeah, I was actually just talking yesterday about Mark Andrews, and if he ends up being that, post June second cut candidate or whatever ends up happening, they trade him. I was saying that I think LA would be a spot for him. Like you just mentioned, go out and get Devontae Adams. You get all these different guys that Sean McVay just gets to play around with, and we're talking about a top two team in the NFC. I mean, they're going to be scary, especially the way they hit on late round picks. That's got to be one
Yeah.
of the best front offices in the league. I've loved what they did in free agency, and then yeah, going out and getting Tyler Warren, you're getting a guy who can do it all, and that'd be very entertaining to watch.
Most definitely sticking with a pass catcher. So now the Colts are going to be taking someone new compared to what we had them taking last time. JP, they still need a tight end. I don't think Colston Loveland will go here. This seems a bit too high for him. Will they go defensive side of the ball? They have a lot of defensive needs still.
Yeah, I think this is a team where they're looking around and they need a safety. They go out and get Charvarius Ward, so I think that takes Jade Barron off the board for them. I think they feel they've addressed the corner position enough. So that leaves me between Mike Green and Malachi Starks. Now, if I was them, I think they really need help at the safety position. But you can't win games unless you have a pass rush. I think they go Mike Green here.
Okay. Okay, and that'll force a different pick as well at 15 with the Falcons. That's a good pick for them. I really do like that. They went Latu last year out of UCLA. He was the first defensive player in the draft. He went at, I believe it was 15. So they're going to go back-to-back edges in the first round, and this is a good spot for him as well in the Colts at 14. As you see, it is one of their needs. And if they can't get Warren, they can't get a pass catcher. Defense, defense, defense for this squad. And for Shane Steichen, which is a make or break year for him. We've talked about this on the pod before that, they've brought in now, it was Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson. Quite the QB competition that'll be in camp this summer, but a lot is riding on this season for Shane Steichen. At the very least, if his defensive side of the ball is fundamentally sound, that is all that matters. And if he can take care of that, everything else will follow in its place. A different spot here when looking at the Falcons at 15. We had them going green last time. I'm between two guys, both on the defensive side of the ball. This is super torn. Do I stick at edge rusher like they had before? There's a defensive back that I have eyeing up for Atlanta as well. But I'm going to end up sticking positional lead. I will stick at the edge, and I'm going to take James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Listen, I think no matter what for the Falcons here at 15, based on how things have gone, they need to go with an edge. It has to be a guy that can get to the quarterback. There are other good defensive guys here in this spot, but Pierce Jr. just makes the most sense out of all the guys that are available. Obviously, Mike Green would be perfect, but he just went the pick before. So they're sticking edge. They're sticking pass rush. It is a huge aspect of their team that needs to be addressed. I mean, not that this guy is losing much from the year before, but Grady Jarrett is now a Bear. Leaving for there in free agency. He having a down year pressure rate wise in 2024 at just a 9% rate. That was a bit lower, but he still was a presence. And they need, especially now more than ever, even more of a young presence, a guy with a good ceiling. And for me, that can be Pierce Jr. here at 15.
Yeah, you nailed it there. They need pass rush. Judon was very underwhelming. They lost Grady Jarrett, even though, as we've mentioned in the free agency video, his pass rush numbers just aren't that. But at least he was a name for the double teams. They need someone who can win pass rush reps badly. The run defense will follow. It's better to have a pass rush than a rush defense because I mean we're in an NFL now where the pass is the main thing here. And yeah, Pierce would be a home run pick for them. Although I'm a little lower on Pierce because of the lack of run defense. I know I'm contradicting myself, but they need a guy who can win pass rush reps, and that is James Pierce.
Yeah, there you go. Edge rushing, edge rushing, edge rushing. Put that in your head for the Falcons at 15. Walter Nolan was the guy at 16 on the interior for the Cardinals. I know, JP, you said you were more of a Kenneth Grant guy when I made the pick last go around. This is your pick to make here. Are you taking Grant? Are you sticking on the interior of the defensive line for Arizona? This is the last pick we're going to make before we hit a brief intermission prior to pick 17 through 32.
I am not going to be going on the interior line here. I believe that they are going to look elsewhere and go address the cornerback position. Now, why I think that is because they addressed the defensive line through free agency with what was it, Sweat and Tomlinson? Were those the two they ended up getting? And
Mm-hmm.
they just brought in Calais Campbell yesterday as well. And so I think that for certain locks in the fact that Jade Barron is going to be a Arizona Cardinal. Uh, Gannon knows as well as anybody what the secondary and Philly did for him when he had prime Slay or end of the prime, but still in the prime year Slay and one prime year of James Bradbury before his major decline. He saw it firsthand. He knows how important it is. He addressed the D line, which they needed. The offense, I don't know what else you can address over there. Michael Wilson's a fine too. James Conner is one of the most reliable running backs in the league. You just drafted Marv. You just locked up Trey McBride long time. You addressed the offensive line 2 years in a row. You have a few franchise quarterback. What's left to address is the secondary. They went with, oh man, I want to say his name, Max Melton, I believe it is,
Yes,
out of
from
Rutgers last
Rutgers. Yep.
year. Yep. In the second round, I believe that was the corner. They need someone opposite of him. They also re-signed Buda Baker, who I know is getting now he's playing more of a linebacker kind of position, but they definitely need safety help. I don't think they'll address that in the first round, and that is why I settled on Jahdae Barron.
And I'm going to tell you, that was the guy I was between with the Falcons at 15. I mean, just one of those best player available. It's hard to pass on a guy like that at 15. But when Atlanta needs all the pass rushing help they get, it works out well for the Cardinals, who that's why I was asking about the D line. I'm like, they could use some help in the secondary as well. Barron goes at 16 to the Cardinals. Those are the first 16 picks here in our 2.0 Just Beavin mock draft. The NFL draft coming up in a few weeks. Picks 17 through 32 coming up next here on the Just Beavin podcast. Part one done, picks 1 through 16. Taking a quick break here, brief intermission, but we're back now. Picks 17 through 32 here on the Just Beavin podcast, NFL Mock Draft 2.0 edition. Andy and JP with you. We left off with the Arizona Cardinals taking Jahdae Barron at 16, getting a defensive back out of Texas. We now have my pick here at 17 with the Bengals. Last go around for Cincinnati, there's still the unknown with Trey Hendrickson. It was Kenneth Grant. JP went with the interior defensive lineman. Out of Michigan, it's tough. I want to be different in this regard with, trying to pick up whoever, but there still hasn't been any progress made on this deal for Hendrickson and the Bengals. And even if there is progress, and if he does play this year, we don't know how much longer he's going to stick around. I am going edge rusher here at 17. This guy is also a guy I took back in the first mock draft. He was inside the top 10. He's fallen out of the top 10 here in this regard, wherever he's at on the board. Either way,
I
the
think they
pick
have
is
him at linebacker on here.
okay. It'll be Jalen Walker out of Georgia. That's who I have the Bengals going with here. Trying to spice things up, not always have the same picks. Granted, I think Kenneth Grant would have been a justifiable selection here, but also, too, Hendrickson will probably maybe play as a Bengal this year. We know he's not going to play anywhere else as of right now. They're not trading him, but even then, he's going to get disgruntled. Even if he plays this year, I don't know what life is like for him in Cincy beyond this year. There needs to be a plan of attack for the edge rusher or a guy who can just rove around and dominate the first and second level of that defense. And Jalen Walker, not everyone loves him, but I feel like if he's not a top 10 pick, if he goes more here in the teens of this draft, he could fly a bit more under the radar and develop as a guy in this defensive unit for Cincinnati. That is the pick I have for the Bengals here at 17.
Yeah, I know there was a report yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago, but Hendrickson was on Pat McAfee, and I guess the owner, or I don't know what she is. I thought it was a guy who owns the Bengals. Maybe it's a woman. Anyways, whatever woman is their highest ranking official over at that organization basically said that, that what Trey is looking for, they don't think he's worth in some capacity. And I'm going to quote Trey exactly here. When I say that communication has been poor, I mean that it's been here and there. We don't have any desire to be the highest paid, and we've tried to be as patient as possible. What I'm getting from that is he's okay staying in Cincy. They're trying to lowball him, and so he's going to end up playing elsewhere. I think the Jalen Walker pick is perfect. That addresses both needs, whether they want to start him at edge. And I don't like Jalen Walker, so when he doesn't play good at edge, they'll move him to linebacker, and maybe he flourishes there. I get Devin White vibes from him, hardcore. I think he's just going to turn into a linebacker who's a pass rush specialist. But other people see other things. I know a lot of people still, like you mentioned earlier, are mocking him in the top 10. And yeah, I'll probably be wrong, but I think it's a good pick either way. Whether Hendrickson's there or not, Hubbard retiring, they need edge players, they need linebackers, and as we see right here, they have Walker listed at a linebacker. I think he'll start at edge regardless of where he goes, and so I think this is a fit for them.
All right. So we're both on board with Walker. Last time around with the Seahawks here at 18, we went interior offensive line in Tyler Booker. And here going right to that spot. Is it going to be Booker again? Oh no,
Well, they
Deacon, we're going
technically have
tackle.
Sable. They have Sable listed as a tackle. He's not playing tackle in the
No.
NFL. I think he's going to end up playing either guard and or center, and that is exactly what the Seahawks need. I know the last time I took a look at their depth chart, they only had one listed center, and I was not familiar with the name. I believe it was something along the lines of it was
Oluwatimi from
Oluwatamana. Yep.
from Michigan. Yeah.
Yep. And so at this point in time, I think Gray Zabel will be the starting center for the Seahawks. I don't know how much longer man, what is their GM? John Schneider
Mm,
can sit there and not address the line. It's horrible. And they just paid Darnold all this money. And no offense to Darnold, but we've seen him behind bad lines. And they're gonna need a good line. Who did they
yeah,
replace? Who did they replace Ryan Grubb with? Kubiak.
yeah, Kubiak.
Kubiak. Great, which is a great hire. Now they just need someone to protect Darnold so Darnold can get the ball to Cup and JSN.
All right. So we are through 18 picks, and we have seen one quarterback get drafted. Obviously, that's not going to change here. With me at 19, we're getting a repeat pick. Jihad Campbell's going to go here once again to the Buccaneers. JP said it when he took him in the first draft. This pick literally makes all of the sense in the world. I don't know if there's more of a perfect fit in terms of player, position, and the way he plays the game than Campbell and the Bucs here at 19. They are really the team that needs a pure linebacker the most here in this first round. Not only is it a good value, it's a good draft position for Campbell. He's a good enough player to where he can make an impact immediately or serve whatever role Tampa needs him to be at with all the veterans that are still there in their linebacking core. Yeah, there's no need to change anything here. Campbell to Tampa still makes perfect sense.
Yep, I completely agree with everything.
So we have the trade down now, JP. We had San Fran at 11. They've gone down 9 spots. Denver moving up to get Tet McMillan. Who do the Niners take at 20?
The Niners are getting ready for their Hall of Fame tackle to depart in a year or two. They're going with a guy who I think has probably the safest floor at worst, and I think will be a Pro Bowl talent. Pro Bowl talent. I don't know if we'll ever see All Pro out of him, but you're getting a damn good player, and they're going with Calvin Banks Jr. from Texas. I think he's the of all the guys we've talked about outside of Membu, maybe I think Banks is the one who for sure is going to be staying at tackle regardless where he goes in the NFL. And they're going to need some line. They needed line bolstering last year. They need line bolstering now. And when Williams leaves, they're definitely going to need line bolstering. And I think Banks will be a perfect replacement.
Yeah, just guys. Trent Williams, literally. I mean, you said it. That's the exact guy you're thinking of when you're putting Banks here at 20. I knew you were going tackle because we kind of talked about, all right, they're going to trade down to get a tackle. Denver's going to trade up to get a wide receiver. There were good tackles on the board available. It was whether you wanted Connor Lee or Banks. I really think those are the two to decide between at 20. Kelvin Banks is a good pick. He moves up from our last mock. I believe he was at 26 to the Rams. All right. 21, the Steelers. JP, go to the quarterback position because they are going quarterback here. But man, I don't know which one. We talked about this on Saturday when we were together. That guy, that's the guy I probably should take just because there's been so much connection. Do I necessarily think he's the guy that should go? I don't really like any of these quarterbacks that are left, but the Steelers are going quarterback here at 21. This is very Kenny Pickett-esque from 3 years ago where they're taking a quarterback in the 20s. Sanders is still here. I don't like Shadur Sanders. I don't necessarily know how he would mesh up with Mike Tomlin in that regard from a coaching standpoint. And also, there's a good chance that the rookie does not play this year, barring injury. That would be the supposed guy. You could see some Jackson Dart action here as well. But just because the Steelers have had, I believe it's at least one, if not two, private dinners with this guy. They love, him on tape. They love what he works out with. Yeah, I'm having them take Jalen Milroe here at 21.
Yes.
I can't. I never thought I would have Jalen Milroe going in the first round, but I'm doing it based on what we've seen. They've met with him multiple times. They took him out to dinner. They met with him elsewhere. Like, this is a guy that the Steelers are legitimately interested in. I do think it makes sense for him as a prospect. He can sit back. I mean, it really does feel like if Aaron Rodgers is going to play football this year, it is going to be in a Pittsburgh Steeler uniform. I mean, quite frankly, I don't know where else he would play. The Giants have signed 2 quarterbacks, and it appears Tennessee's not interested in bringing him in. It's a matter of if he wants to play, and if he does, then great, he'll go play for Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Now, if we find out before the draft that he's not playing, that might change who the Steelers take at 21 because I don't know if they really want to be rolling out with Jalen Milroe week 1. But just because, JP, we've seen this where they are so heavily invested in him. I mean, this could be all smoke, but I mean, they, front offices, management, ownership, they meet with prospects and stuff all the time. But when you hold a pick outside of the top 20 and you're meeting with a specific player and it's made known to the public, I have reason to believe there's a lot of interest there. So putting all those factors together, I will have Milroe here at 21 to the Steelers.
Yeah, Milroe is my favorite QB in this draft by a long shot. He's the only one I have a top 40 grade on. I love Milroe. I think I think you're looking at Lamar Jackson at your ceiling here, and I don't even mean to say that just because they both run. I mean the if Milrow can figure out
I
the
mean,
accuracy
he's got a
issues,
bazooka. He can throw, dude.
if he can figure out the accuracy issues, you're looking at a faster Josh Allen. I don't know if I'll ever be that good. That is obviously the peak ceiling here. But I think even at a floor, you have a better Anthony Richardson. He's more accurate and he's a better runner. I love everything about Jalen Milrow. And I think going to Pittsburgh with Tomlin, and even though a lot of people don't like Arthur Smith because he's bad for fantasy and yada, 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 he's a QB's best friend. His
Yeah.
offense draws up simple offenses. He turned Ryan Tannehill into a top 12 quarterback in the league in his prime, and that's hard to do. Ryan Tannehill was buns. Jalen Milrow has everything you want in a starter. The rushing upside, like you mentioned, he has a bazooka. He has bad footwork at times, which messes a lot of his accuracy up. If that can get corrected with Arthur Smith and this team, and you let him sit for a year, we're talking the Steelers are back playing for Super Bowls in 2 to 3 to 4 years. I love
Wow.
Jalen Milrow. I love everything about him, and I'm very high on him. And I love this pick. You saw how hyped I got when you made the pick. I love this pick.
And dude, for your sake, if he hits, you're happy that we have this recorded and this will be out because you will be one of the people to say, yes, I'm all in on Milrow and this pick made all the sense. And especially if he ends up being a Steeler, that makes it that much better. So yes, our second quarterback is not Shedeur Sanders. It's not Jackson Dart. It is Jalen Milrow at 21 to the Steelers. Potentially the last quarterback we see go here in the first round. You already got the tight ends ready, JP. It'll be
Yeah,
Colston
I'm
Loveland
just
here
launching him right now.
at
Yeah,
22 to the Chargers. I believe this was also the pick we had Los Angeles
it
making
was.
last go around. So, I mean, like you said, we look at the Chargers. They brought back Mike Williams, cool reunion there, and they have Lad McConkey. Who knows? They might bring Keenan Allen back as well. And there's no, I'm not saying that's a reason to take the tight end here. But they can go in the second, third round and take other receivers. You know, if you can really scout a guy you like in the second day at the receiver position, it's much easier to go out and get a guy like that rather than you have a day one tight end. Those are much harder to come by.
Yeah, Loveland's awesome. I think him and Warren are 1A, 1B. I don't think I don't think Warren's that much harder or farther ahead of Loveland. I love Colson Loveland. The John Harbaugh connection just makes a lot of sense. This is a great pick for them.
Yeah. Our bitter rival here at 23, the Green Bay Packers, when looking at what we had them doing, it was Jahdae Barron, cornerback, the last go round. Barron's long gone off the board. I have them sticking at that cornerback position here at 23. I'm going with a guy who tested really well at the combine in particular, ran really well. We've made the joke before that Kentucky always has a guy that runs really well every year at the combine, it seems, no matter what the position. And the pick here for the Packers will be Maxwell Hairston as for a defensive back for them. I've seen him linked there. We've talked about the Jair Alexander stuff. Their cornerback room in general has been very inconsistent. They've still been able to get by, win games, and make the playoffs, but they need to go get a guy who they have faith in that'll be around in a few years and a guy that can develop. I feel like Hairston fits that mold pretty well for this front office out in Green Bay.
Yeah, he's not. I think I have him at sixth, seventh, or eighth, somewhere on my corner rankings. I'm a little higher than people on Siobhan Revel and Darian Porter out of Iowa State. I don't have a first round grade on Harrison, but like you said, he tested very well, and that would just be the most Packers. It'd just be a Packers pick, a guy who's projected much lower. They take him in the first round, and everyone freaks out. They let him develop, and he turns out to be a good player. I mean, that just seems to be what the Packers do in the first round. Makes all the sense in the world. Like you mentioned with the Jair Alexander stuff, they need help at corner. Pick makes sense.
In our first mock draft, we had it going corner and then safety at 23 24 with the Packers and Vikings. I do believe it was Malachi Starks at 24. JP, is this a repeat spot here for Minnesota when doing this draft 4 weeks later?
So I'm a little torn right now, all because of the signings that they did end up making. They addressed the entire defensive line. It's got to be up there in the top 5 defensive lines now. That's going to be a go for our Bears. I mean, every
Yeah.
game is going to be an absolute slugfest in the trenches. But with that said, it is going to be a repeat pick here. I think they need help badly. Harrison Smith only signed a 1 year extension. That doesn't give you much to work with. I think Theo Jackson is the free safety. I know Stark's probably going to end up playing strong safety, but even the free safety position, I don't feel too confident with Theo Jackson there. I'm sure Vikings fans will be a little worried because they airballed on Andrew Cine, I think his name was. I can't remember his name, but they traded down with the Ravens, in which the
Mm-hmm.
Ravens took Kyle Hamilton and then they ended up taking Cine or whatever his name was, and now
Yeah.
he's no longer a Viking. But yeah, no, they need help at the safety position long term. And if they want to keep competing, I think Stark's the pick.
It's best safety in the class. Pretty simple to put it, and he's there, and it still makes sense. So why change it up, dude? I'm really torn now at 25. I wanted to do Emeka Ibuka so bad to the Texans. We wanted to do it last time. You went in a different direction, I believe. You went Gray Zabel, if my memory serves correct.
I
Yes,
believe
you
I
did.
did. Yes.
But also with free agency in the trade market, Laramie Tunsil got dealt. And that leads me to believe the offensive tackle spot will be much more important. Josh Connerly Jr. will be the pick here out of Oregon. As much as I want it to be Egbuka, and I do believe he would serve a really good purpose on this offense, needed to take care of CJ Stroud and those around him. And with all the uncertainty now on the offensive line with Tunsil out, needing a more of a surefire tackle that you're confident in, not just now, but down the road. Connerly's the best one on the board and probably the last tackle that should go in the first round, unless you're that high on Donovan Jackson. But some people profile him on the inside as well. In terms of pure tackle here, Connerly at 25 makes a boatload of sense for Houston.
Yeah, I have a first round grade on Connerly. I think this is a perfect spot for him. Like you mentioned, the Laramie Tunsil trade. They need to address the position, and getting a fresh new contract with Connerly in there would be a great move. But yeah, that Stroud and Egbuka connection, I wouldn't be shocked. That this is more of a pick I think we should do. It would not shock me at all if the draft board fell magically exactly like this. If CJ Stroud is flying 100 down the freeway to get to the facility to tell them to take Egbuka here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I remember the draft story when he called in and told them to go get Tank Dell. And I see the
Mm,
same vision here with Ekbuka, the college connection and all that. So, but yeah, no, I love the Connerly pick, first round grade on him, and I think it that makes the most sense because they went out and got Christian Kirk. So the Connerly pick makes the most sense.
yeah. Offensive line, stick to it. Protect Stroud. This is the trade down here. Miami not really loving what was on the board at 13, able to get a package from the Rams. They're now here at 26. As we mentioned earlier, JP, they went Will Johnson going secondary. That was your pick for them back in the first draft. You get to pick as the Dolphins again here in the 2.0 version of the Just Beavin podcast. Is it secondary
Sorry.
again for these Dolphins? Are they going to stick out there? And we talked about their free agency, how very underwhelming it was. It was a lot of depth signings on both sides of the ball. They didn't really address anything big. So I guess you can make the argument as well that Miami is a team that didn't answer a lot for us on the last few weeks.
Yeah, I know that the Dolphins D coordinator, oh man, what is his name? He
Anthony
came over
Walker,
from the Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver
Weaver,
came over
Weaver.
from the Ravens, and they've been known to they like addressing the interior defensive line with guys who can win pass rush. And while I think Kenneth Grant is the better defensive tackle, I think Walter Nolan fits
Okay.
more of the defensive scheme that the Ravens are known for. He reminds me of Nadmi Matabuke over in Baltimore a little bit, and I think that is kind of what they'll be trying to replicate. And Walter Nolan really gives me those vibes. And like I mentioned, Calais Campbell went back to Arizona. Not that Calais Campbell, is still an out of this world player, but he's still a starter in the NFL. And Walter Nolan is going to be replacing that.
Yeah, I saw interior defensive line as well, which had me worried because that's where I have the Ravens going at 27. They're simply, yes, in the defensive philosophy, everything you said, I echo it. That is a good spot. Nolan's a guy who is, we had him in the teens first go around. He has fallen here. It feels like they're getting a guy at a good value at 26. I'm going to stop the fall on another guy here at 27. We did this, funny enough, in the first mock draft 1.0. It was Rams and then Ravens. We stopped the fall on two offensive tackles and Calvin Banks and then Josh Simmons. Here we're stopping the fall on two interior defensive linemen. JP going with Walter Nolan at 26, and I'm going to take Kenneth Grant here at 27. This is a very good pick for the Ravens. This guy screams what their defense is all about. And I think more importantly, we talk value. We had them going offensive tackle and Simmons, as mentioned in the last draft, because we were worried about what they would do with Ronnie Stanley. Well, I think also the day after we recorded that, Stanley signed an extension and returned to the Ravens. So going tackle wouldn't make a whole lot of sense here. And even if it did, all the tackles are gone. The run on tackles was much earlier in our draft this time. This is how we talk about every draft is different based on how certain things shape out. This time, interior defensive line wasn't addressed as early. These guys are going in the 20s, and the Ravens take advantage. So Kenneth Grant stops his fall here. He'll go to Baltimore at 27. And then you got anything else, or are we good there?
No, it was all echoed with the Walter Nolan stuff. I should have said something, but yeah, no, I fully
Oh,
agree
you're
with
good.
everything you said. They the same philosophies. Kenneth Grant's a beast, and yeah, they need interior help.
Love it. Love it. We get into our favorite picks now of the draft, the final five picks in the first round with these five teams that we don't know what we want necessarily. We don't know what we want them to do. And I know we said before we recorded that we'd keep lines open, on our phones to see, hey, do we want to make a trade? I'll just tell you right now, I don't have a trade in mind for any of these teams.
I don't either.
I don't think there's a guy worth that I see. Ooh, I need Kansas City to move up here like they did with Xavier Worthy and the Bills last year. I think we stand pat. And with that being said, JP, the floor is yours with the Lions at 28.
Yeah, I think the Lions go best player available in their head, best player available. And I'm just looking at the ADPs here, and I think that with the injury to Hutchinson, them trying out with Zadarius Smith, and that being an absolute airball, um, or was it Preston? No, it was Zadarius Smith.
It was a Darius.
Uh, yeah, being an absolute airball, they need edge help, especially if Hutchinson doesn't return to full form. And I think you need to address that here. I think they go with the Georgia product in Michael Williams.
All right, so this is a repeat pick that we had in the last draft with Williams. And yes, I mean, same thing, like we said. Hutchinson running should not be running right now. They should be working him back as slow as possible. Yes, go shore up a position, go get a depth guy and a guy who, hey, if you hit on him, cool, he turns into a starter, and that's a good problem to have in that spot. With the Commanders at 29, we also went edge last go round. I'm gonna have some fun here and get Jaden Daniels, another receiver. I know they traded for Debo Samuel, and they have Terry McLaurin, but those guys are both old. They need someone young to kind of work with him there. And this is another one. This guy's still on the board, and for them, they're looking at him saying, "All right, this could be someone we have, with Jaden, similar to. I'll compare it to our Bears, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze. They could have Jaden Daniels and Luther Bird. I think his fall stops here. He goes at 29. Now, could I still see them going edge? Absolutely, but I think this is just a fun pick, and the Commanders could see the future vision more than anything with Burden, even though he'll work with a couple of vets. And hey, having him work in with guys who have been around like McLaurin and Samuel might also be good for him and his development in the league to get eased into it, so to speak. Not saying he needs to be because of how talented he is, but being around guys who have, in Samuel's case, has played in Super Bowls. McLaurin's had success, and he's also dealt with struggles with a bunch of different quarterbacks. I think learning from those guys and getting to work for, in a Commanders offense that got to the NFC title game a season ago, I feel like they would really, really like to have Burden in the fold.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And you're getting a top 15 player, in my opinion, all the way down at 29. Like you mentioned, pairing Daniels with another young guy. That's a great move for them. And it would hurt me. I don't like
Oh
Washington
yeah.
at all. I would hate to see Burden go there, but it'd be a great move. It'd be one of those moves where everyone's doubting it in fantasy and all that. So that'd be hilarious. But that's a great move for Washington getting Burden that late.
All right. 30 with the Bills. We have them going Nick Amano-Ware, the last go round of safety to help out back there. We'll see. JP, are they going to go different than secondary in our second mock draft?
Well, seeing that they brought back Tamar Hamlin, I'm not going to be giving them Nick Amanda here. I know they drafted Cole Bishop last year too, and he's more of a strong safety backing up Taylor Rapp. But I mean, I really don't know how much longer you can keep Damar Hamlin on the field. The thing that is my vision right now is you signed Joey Bosa to a 1 year deal. It was 1 year, correct? I'm not
Yeah,
messing those
1
numbers
year,
up.
12 million.
Yeah. You sign him to a 1 year deal. You're paying him 12 million. He hasn't played a full season, I don't think ever in his entire career, especially as of late. I don't think he's played more than 13 games in a season. You need edge here. You need to address what you don't have. I think they go pure pass rusher here, and I think they go Donovan Ezeraku.
All right. So a guy who we did not have in the first round in our first mock goes here, the Boston College product. I like the philosophy. Necessarily, yeah, going safety again wouldn't make sense. Now, could they address it later in rounds 2, 3, 4, beyond? Absolutely. But no, you got to worry about Bosa because he's not going to stay healthy. He probably, if he plays all 17 games, that would be a miracle. I think you'd be lucky if he plays 12. He'd earn $1 million a game this year, based on how that could project. So no, I like that fit. It's a guy who can work in and also could be thrown into a big spot relatively early if and when Bosa draws out of the lineup. I'm going to be lame here at 31. You gave such a good explanation for this guy in the Chiefs in our first mock draft. I have him going interior defensive line again. I really wanted them to go Derek Harmon, but when you talk about Darius Alexander from Toledo, he just fits their timeline a bit better. He's an older player, more of a win now guy. You have Chris Jones, dealing with him as well on the inside, a true game wrecker. And for Alexander, because I believe he's 25, or will he
Yep.
be 26? Either way,
He'll be 25, I believe.
yeah, 25 years old. You get a 4-year first round contract. You likely, then we already talked about this. It's hey, you're already 29. You're not going to be worth as much. They could be playing the long game with this guy, and they know he's already got the traits to go help out now. That's the big theme with the Chiefs. They want to keep the ball rolling. Harmon could easily be the pick here, but that the age thing is actually for once in the draft a benefit. It's good in Alexander's case to be as old as he is entering the draft, and he's really a perfect fit for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I is the pick I went with last time. It makes a whole lot of sense. You got to keep that window open. You need guys who are going to come in and win right now. You don't have time to be taking the project guys, especially in the first round. Those have to be hits. You can take the projects a little later in the draft, like they tried with your favorite Sky Moore and stuff like that. But you need guys who are going to come in and contribute to winning football right now, and that would be Darius Alexander.
All righty, once again, rounding it out, the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in the first installment of our mock draft. It was Donovan Jackson in the offensive line. Obviously, that line not getting any younger. Who is going to be the last pick here in the first round, JP?
Well, I think the safest pick would to be going with Tyler Booker. But I'm currently researching the Eagles' new offensive coordinator to see if he stems from anything special, but it does not appear that he does. It seems that he's a Nick Sirianni guy through and through. I was looking at the possibility of maybe throwing him at Mecca Ibuka here, just to load up the offense, because what do they need? All they did was lose Mekhi Becton.
No,
But for that reason, I'm going to give them the boring pick and give them Tyler Booker.
boring, but a really good pick. I mean, he fell 14 spots from our first because you switched it up with Zabel, which those guys could go. They're interchangeable. They really are. So no, it's perfect. I could not think of a better guy in that spot. It's boring, but it's what they need. It's right when these good teams, it's harder to pick out what you're looking for, and that's what you need there. Booker makes sense. He's proven it, and there you have it. That is the last pick here in the first round. You see the first round on your screen right now. We start in the top 10. JP, we can kind of just talk through what we did here before we sign off. The two trades that we made, none of them in the top 10. Omarion Hampton, a Bear at 10 to the Bears. Obviously, I just said the Bears. Genty at 6 to the Raiders. He moves up a few spots from the first draft. So we have two running backs in the top 10. Cam Moore, the number 1 pick. You took Travis Hunter at 2. And I think the questionable pick then is me going Carter at 3, with the Giants just going BPA. But overall, the top 10, a lot different. We got some new guys here in Membu. Will Johnson moves up from the first mock draft that we did. And Josh Simmons moves all the way up from 27 to 9. New Orleans taking him as more of a guy to work behind Ryan Ramczyk and Trevor Penning.
Yeah, I think my favorite pick here would be Mason Graham getting to Jacksonville. That just seems so fun. I love Mason Graham, and that was kind of why I advocated for him at 3. To me, he's a top 5, top 6 player in this class. I mean, he's just been he's dominated his entire college career, and I think that's going to translate really, really well to the NFL. Also love the Josh Simmons pick to New Orleans. That was a great pick. It really threw me off at 10 there, which is why we see Hampton at 10. But I love Josh Simmons, and I like the Saints. I grew up watching Drew Brees be good, and it was fun while the Saints were good. It feels weird with them being so atrociously bad for the last 5-6 years. Josh Simmons would be a knock in the right direction.
Most definitely. We look from the 11 through 20 spots, or I guess we got 11 through 16, based on how we have it formatted here. A couple receivers. The Broncos trading up for McMillan, Matthew Golden at 12, Warren at 13. So a run on pass catchers, back-to-back edges, and Green and Pierce. And we talked about that Jahdae Barron fit, JP, at 16 to the Cardinals. Love everything about that and what it would mean for the Arizona defense.
Yeah, I think this grouping here this has got to be the order of fits. I mean, all these guys just would fit perfectly in. Tet to the Broncos, Golden Cowboys, Warren to the Rams, Green to the Colts. I mean, yeah, it's all fits here. And I especially like the Jahdae Barron pick to the Cardinals. It just makes so much sense. And I love Golden to Dallas. It's such a Dallas pick
Hmm.
that it's like written in the stars. I can see the Cowboys fans freaking out that they took Golden that high, but it's just such a Cowboys pick.
No, it definitely is. And in just being a Longhorn, going from a Longhorn to a Cowboy, you always see in a lot of mock drafts for Dallas. That's what they end up doing, but they never pull it off in the actual draft. We have that here in our second mock draft as we look up now the 17th slot starting off the second half of this episode. Jalen Walker, a guy who kind of rove around with all the Trey Hendrickson contract disputes going on right now inside Cincinnati. Talked about Gray Zabel, his potential starting center right away out in Seattle, which I really like. We keep Jihad Campbell at 19 to the Bucks. The trade down sees the Niners going with Calvin Banks, and then JP Jalen Milroe, your favorite pick here at 21 to the Steelers. We keep Colston Loveland as a Charger at 22, and another project-ish guy for a guy who tested well at the combine for Green Bay and Maxwell Hairston.
Yeah, I like this run of players. Not only for their fits, but it's one of those I can just envision them in those teams jersey. Like I mentioned when you pick Jalen Walker, it's such a Bengals. It's just I could see him in the Bengals, the Tiger stripes. It just makes so much sense. I love Jihad Campbell to the Buccaneers. I've been all over that pick. We've been all over that pick.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that pick. And then yeah, like you mentioned, Jalen Milroe's name gets whispered, and I hear it across the room. I'm absolutely fired up.
you're all
I
over it,
I
man.
I really hope he goes to Pittsburgh. I absolutely love Jalen Milroe. That pick will have me jumping around on draft night.
As we look to the back half to close out our first round, we keep Malachi Starks as a Viking at 24. Texans, after losing Laramie Tunsil, need some tackle help with Josh Connerly at 25. Back to back interior defensive lineman at 26, 27 that fell with Miami trading down in the deal with the Rams. They get Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant as a Raven. We keep Michael Williams with the Lions at 28. Commanders have some fun with Luther Burden at 29. Donovan Ezaraku, did I say that right? Boston College product going at 30. We keep Darius Alexander as a Chief at 31, and Tyler Booker, a great value pick for the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles at 32. JP, your final thoughts on our last grouping here in our 2.0 mock drafts on the Just Beavin podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like me and you did this whole mock draft. I mean, I love all these picks. I don't know. I love them all. I love starts to the Vikings. It makes so much sense. Connerly to the Texans, the run on the D tackles right there. And then even though we mention it every time, we have no clue what we're doing from 28 to 32. But every time we wrap it up, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this
Yeah,
this all makes sense. I mean, I love
it
it.
works.
I love Burn to Washington. That's such like a fun pick. It'd be really fun in real life. So.
Most definitely. And obviously then this always impacts our Beaver Fest rookie draft. Not to put our guy on blast, but our good friend Luke Hunley sent a text to our chat today, wondering when we were doing the rookie draft. It is after the rookie draft for Beaver Fest will be after the NFL draft, and because where these guys go impacts where we value them on our boards. We will have an episode next week introducing, hopefully, as if we can get everything set up, introducing the new member of the league and all the deals that he has made since joining the league and how it's impacted the overall outlook of Beaverfest. And we're going to get ready for our draft as well. That'll wrap things up here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just Beavin mock draft 2.0 here. We are just a few weeks away from the NFL draft in Green Bay. Andy and JP signing off for now. Once again, have a fantastic rest of your day. Appreciate the support here on the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good things. And we will catch you next time.